My girlfriend of 5 years looked me in the eyes and said, "I'm not attracted to you anymore. I need an alpha." I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I simply replied, "I understand." What she didn't realize was that the promotion she was so desperately hoping her so-called alpha boyfriend would get, the one that would launch their power couple fantasy, had already been offered to me. And when she finally saw me in the corner office, her face went pale. She had no idea I was about to become her new boss. Her name is Tina. Last Tuesday, she ended our relationship. Since we lived together, she at least had the decency to break the news face to face. But that was the only decency she showed. She sat me down on the sofa in the house that I own and delivered a speech she had clearly been rehearsing. She told me she still loved me as a person, but she wasn't in love with me anymore. She claimed something had been missing for a long time, and then came the line that hit like a blade. "I'm just not attracted to you anymore, David. I need a real alpha, a man who takes charge, a true leader." The insult was so blunt, so condescending, that I didn't even feel anger, only clarity. I've never been the loudest man in the room. I don't brag. I don't need to dominate conversations. I solve problems, I build things, I lead by quiet competence. I thought Tina valued that. Clearly, I was wrong. To her, my restraint was weakness. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just sat there and waited, because I knew there was more. She mistook my silence for permission to keep going. That's when she confessed she'd been getting close to someone else, a man from our company. His name was Chad. For context, Tina, Chad, and I all work at the same large engineering firm. I'm a senior systems architect. I design the backbone of our most complex projects. Tina is a project manager. And Chad? He's a senior sales strategist. He's exactly what you'd picture if someone used the word alpha unironically. Loud, flashy, expensive suits, slick presentations. All charisma, very little substance. Tina gushed about his ambition, his unstoppable drive, and then she revealed the real core of her excitement. For the last 2 months, there had been an opening at the company, Director of Strategic Integration, a major leadership role that would oversee all 3 of our departments. Chad was the leading candidate. And Tina? She had been secretly feeding him inside information to strengthen his proposals. She believed his promotion would be their golden ticket, that they were about to become the office's new power couple. I listened quietly as she painted her picture of the future. When she was done, after telling me exactly why I wasn't good enough for her anymore, I looked at her and said evenly, "I understand." She seemed surprised by my lack of emotion, but she mistook it for acceptance. She said she'd need a week or 2 to move out. I nodded. What she didn't know was this. While she and Chad were scheming, senior management had already begun doubting him. They saw what I saw: flash without substance. His strategies looked good on slides but fell apart in reality. My team was always left scrambling to fix the gaps. About a month earlier, our senior vice president, Marcus, had quietly pulled me aside. He told me that while I wasn't the obvious candidate, I was the only one who truly understood how all the moving parts of the company fit together. He wanted a leader who could deliver results, not promises. He offered me the role. I hesitated. I loved the hands-on work. I wasn't sure I wanted the politics of senior management. I asked for time to think. I didn't mention it to Tina. Our relationship was already strained. Ironically, my hesitation, my thoughtfulness, was the very thing she mistook for weakness. But after her speech, after she paraded her new alpha in front of me, all my hesitation vanished. Refusing the promotion would only validate her narrative. Accepting it wasn't about ambition anymore. It was about self-respect. The next morning, I walked into Marcus's office. "I've considered your offer," I said. "If it's still on the table, I accept." A huge smile spread across his face. "That's the best news I've heard all month. Welcome aboard, Director." That evening, when I got home, Tina was already packing. She hummed to herself as she told me about her celebratory dinner with Chad scheduled for Monday night after the big announcement. She even patted my shoulder and said smugly, "Don't worry, David. I talked to Chad. Once he's director, he'll make sure you're assigned to the most important projects. He really values your technical skills." I simply nodded. "That's thoughtful of you." That weekend, I quietly moved her belongings into the guest room. She thought it was just me needing space. She had no idea what was about to hit her inbox Monday morning. When the email went out at AM, the entire company saw my name. And I saw Tina's world collapse in real time. Her triumph turned to shock, her face draining of all color as she realized the truth. She hadn't chosen an alpha. She had chosen wrong. "This is my house," I told her calmly. "You need to find a new place to live. You have 1 week." The fight drained out of her instantly. What replaced it was horror, the dawning realization that her carefully built fantasy had collapsed. Her alpha had failed. The dream of becoming a power couple was gone. And now, even her home was slipping away. Her plan hadn't just failed, it had backfired in the most spectacular way imaginable. Update: It's been 2 weeks since my promotion, and the fallout has been both predictable and oddly satisfying. The first week was about establishing my authority. Unsurprisingly, Tina and Chad tried to undermine me, but every attempt they made only strengthened my position. My first act as director was to call a meeting with all department heads, Tina representing project management, and Chad representing sales. I wanted to review our entire project pipeline. Chad walked in with his trademark swagger, but it was brittle, forced. Tina sat at the far end of the table, silent, unable to meet my eyes. The centerpiece of the meeting was Chad's pet project, the initiative he'd been championing for months, the one Tina had thrown her full support behind. It was the foundation of his entire pitch for the director role. When it was his turn to present, Chad gave his usual show. Slick slides, flashy buzzwords, big promises. When he finished, he looked around, expecting applause. Instead, I spoke. "Thank you, Chad," I said evenly. "Your projections are ambitious, but I've reviewed the architecture behind them. Can you please turn to slide 17, the data integration process?" For the first time, he fumbled. He brought up the slide, uncertainty flickering across his face. "Your plan depends on real-time data synchronization between our legacy inventory system and the new analytics platform," I explained to the room. "But the legacy system's API has a hard limit of 1,000 queries per hour. Your strategy requires at least 10,000 during peak times. It won't work. The system will fail." I wasn't aggressive. I just presented facts. The flaw was obvious to anyone with real technical knowledge, but Chad had ignored it. The room went silent. His face flushed red. He stammered about his consultants assuring him it would work. "Then your consultants were wrong," I replied simply. "This project is on hold pending a full review. I want a viable plan, not a PowerPoint deck. Tina, have your team reallocate resources to the Phoenix project immediately." Tina just nodded, pale. She had to watch me dismantle the very project she had pinned her hopes on. In 10 minutes, I had exposed Chad's incompetence and reasserted control over the company's direction simply by doing my job. Their next move was predictable: gossip. Tina whispered to her friends, implying I was using my position to punish her. But it backfired. In our company, competence is everything. My colleagues had seen Chad's hollow pitches and lived through the chaos they created. They respected me for shutting down a flawed initiative and saving millions. They didn't see a bitter ex-boyfriend, they saw a strong leader. Tina's complaints only made her look unprofessional. So they escalated. And this time, it was dirty. One of my old projects, a critical software update, was nearing deployment. Late one night, someone altered a single line of code, a subtle sabotage meant to corrupt data days later. If it hadn't been caught, it would have looked like my mistake, a ticking time bomb planted before my promotion. But I noticed it immediately. It wasn't my work. The logic was sloppy. Instead of panicking, I went straight to cybersecurity. Logs. Every login is tracked. Within an hour, I had the evidence. 10:47 p.m., a login from Chad's workstation. Concrete proof of sabotage. Chad wasn't just incompetent anymore. He was dangerous. And I had him. Final update 3 months later, the dust has settled. The story of Tina and Chad is over. I didn't confront them directly. That would have been messy. Instead, I acted like the leader they swore I wasn't. I compiled the evidence logs, timestamps, security footage and presented it calmly to HR and senior management. Their response was immediate. Corporate sabotage is not a gray area. Chad was called into HR, denied everything at first, but the evidence was undeniable. He was terminated for cause, escorted out by security with his belongings in a cardboard box. His career? Finished, and Tina? She wasn't fired, but she might as well have been. She was reprimanded for her unprofessional conduct and quietly transferred to a dead-end division. Same title, meaningless work. Her career trajectory shattered. Within a month, she resigned. She couldn't handle the humiliation, the looks from colleagues who all knew the story. She left the city.as for me. I'm thriving. My department has delivered 2 major projects ahead of schedule. Morale is high. The respect I receive isn't because I'm the loudest voice in the room, it's because I lead with competence, with calm authority, with results that speak for themselves. Looking back, Tina was right about one thing. She said she needed an alpha, but her definition was wrong. She mistook flash for strength. She thought arrogance was leadership. She never understood that real strength isn't about volume, it's about foundation. It's about solving problems, building systems that last, and leading with steady confidence. She went searching for her alpha. In the end, she found him. She just never realized he was the man she walked away from.